It was a failing root beer stand before it became a living example of the American dream. It all began when a sheepherder was forced to bear the financial burden of his father's bankruptcy. Bill Marriott was born in Marriott, Utah, in 1900, in the town founded by his great-grandfather. Bill's parents were poor sheepherders who raised him and his 7 siblings on a small farm. Bill began helping his parents raise their flock when he was only 8 years old. The experience taught him quickly to work hard and accept responsibility. "My father gave me manly responsibilities. He'd tell me what he wanted done, but he'd never tell me how to do it. It was up to me to figure it out." He was 13 years old when he felt confident enough to start his own business. He discovered a few acres of undeveloped land and planted lettuce. While the company was profitable, he had to close it down. Bill's father asked him to take 3,000 sheep and travel by rail to San Francisco. There Bill was charged with the task of completing a large sale. Bill took on so many responsibilities after that he was forced to drop out of high school. He then traveled east to finish his missionary service. He stopped in Washington on his way back home and discovered a new popular hangout spot. Root beer vending machines. Many people would queue around the block for a cold glass of root beer. Bill was inspired by what he saw, but his plans, like his first venture, would have to wait. When he returned home, he knows that his father had declared bankruptcy. Sheep prices fell as a result of the economic downturn. The heartbreaking news served as a wake-up call for Bill. He became more determined to make a better future for himself and further his education. He started by completing the work needed to graduate high school and asked his 7th grade teacher for help. His teacher later became the president of Weber State College. Bill wanted to go but didn't have the money for tuition, so he asked his teacher if he could teach theology to pay for it. His teacher, fortunately, agreed. Bill transferred to the University of Utah 2 years later to cover tuition. He sold lumberjacks expensive woolen pants. Bill devised a brilliant sales strategy. He challenged 2 of the most intimidating-looking lumberjacks he could find. "You each take a leg from this pair of pants. If you can separate it, I'll give you a free pair. If you cannot, you must purchase it." The lumberjacks could never tear the pants apart in a tug-of-war. It enabled Bill to make a large profit and become the company's best salesman. While Bill faced many challenges in his early life, his parents encouraged him to create opportunities for himself and later turn a failing business into an empire. On their first date in Bill's final year of college, he fell for another student named Alice Sheets. He drove Alice to an A&W root beer stand. He was surprised to see so many people gathered around the block, as he had seen in Washington. Bill quickly decided to seize the opportunity and board a train to Sacramento. He tracked down the owner of A&W, Roy Allen, there. Bill persuaded Roy to grant him a license to sell A&W root beer in the Washington area he knew. Summers were thus regarded as hot and miserable, and the product would be in high demand. Bill married Alice after returning to Utah and graduating from college. They found a small space on 14th Street that could accommodate 9 stools. Their root beer stand officially opened for business in May 1927, the locals were hooked, and the business thrived. However, as winter approached, sales stagnated. Nobody wanted ice-cold root beer when it was cold and raining. "You better get something hot in here to eat or you'll be out of business," customers warned, but Alice had a brilliant idea. She went to the nearby Mexican embassy and asked the chef to show her how to make a few hot dishes. He not only said yes, but he also gave Alice his top-secret recipes. Bill obtained approval from A&W. Alice would prepare chili and hot tamales in their cramped apartment and bring them over. Bill, Alice and Hugh opened 2 more hot shops for their 3rd location less than a year later. Bill bet on the industry's future, and with more Americans driving automobiles, he saw the need for a drive-in restaurant. So he bought a vacant lot, removed the curb, and opened the East's first drive-in service. Hugh realized the business couldn't support 2 families at that point and sold his half of it. Bill and Alice were forced to work late at the restaurant, frequently until 2 a.m. He was given another wake-up call at that point. This time, it led to the discovery of a simple key to success that allowed him to expand his future empire internationally. One day Bill's cook never showed up for their shift. Bill's new focus, he said, helped him open 8 more restaurants a few years later. He and his family would pick new places by staking out intersections and counting every passing car. Bill had finally created a better future for himself than he could have imagined as a teenager. However, he was forced to take a step back just 1 year later. He was diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease, a type of blood cancer. How much time do I have? Bill requested 6 months from his doctor. At most, a year. Bill's doctor advised him to take a break from business and suggested a long holiday. You may be able to live a longer life. Bill followed his own advice and went on a road trip with Alice and Bill Jr., his newborn son. They made it all the way up to the eastern seaboard. When they returned home, Bill felt compelled to seek counsel from his church. So he invited 2 family members to his home and requested a blessing. A few weeks later, the unthinkable occurred. The lymphatic swellings decreased and then gradually disappeared. Bill's doctor delivered unexpected news months later. They couldn't even find a trace of Hodgkin's disease. Bill returned to work, and a few years later, he discovered a new opportunity that provided him with a fortunate break. One of his managers mentioned that people were bringing their meals on board. So Bill made takeaway boxes for them and then took it a step further by meeting with several airline companies and pitching the idea of delivering pre-boxed meals. A first in the industry, to which the airlines enthusiastically agreed. Hot Shops was servicing 20 daily flights for Washington Hoover Airport within a year. Bill and Alice were managing 24 Hot Shop restaurants by the early 1940s. Many Americans thought taking their family to one business was a big deal. And this attitude persisted until America prepared for World War II. Instead of giving up, Bill shifted his focus to managing cafeterias in government office buildings and war production factories. When the war was over, business resumed as usual. However, it was soon threatened by its main competitor, McDonald's. McDonald's could make a 15-cent hamburger in 2 minutes. It took 15 minutes and cost 50 cents in the meantime. Around that time, Bill decided to raise funds by taking the company public on the day of its initial public offering. Bill decided it was time to take a risk on a new venture that would make or break his career and legacy after its stock sold out in just 2 hours. Experts predicted that passenger jets would fly into and out of Washington National Airport in the early 1950s, when travel was on the rise. It was obvious to Bill that travelers would want to stay nearby, and he had just the perfect location in mind, just a stone's throw from the airport. On 8 acres of land he had purchased 3 years before. While it was risky, Bill believed that now was the time to construct his first motel. Because Bill, Alice and their son knew nothing about the industry, he saw it as a logical extension of Hot Shops, caring for families on the go. As the motel was being built in 1957, they frequently stayed up all night redecorating and painting it. The motel was now open for business. It had over 300 beds and was known as the Twin Bridges. It was the world's largest hotel. The business did well at first, but as winter approached, it began to deteriorate. It got so bad that Bill could only afford to run one lift. "I'm at a loss as to what to do with this motel," Bill told his son, Bill Jr. "Why don't you let me run it and I'll learn you don't know anything about the motel business. Nobody else around here does, either." "Okay, go ahead," armed with a finance and banking degree. Bill Jr. was determined to succeed. By introducing competitive services, the motel became more profitable. 2 years later, Bill Jr. opened the Key Bridge, his second motel. His father later changed the company name to Marriott, proud of his son's success. Today, Marriott is a multi-billion-dollar international conglomerate that owns dozens of luxury brands such as the Ritz-Carlton, W Hotels, St. Regis, Sheraton, and others. They make errors, but they never give up. This is the story of how a sheepherder and his sons built the world's largest hotel chain during difficult times. Which of the following facts was your favorite in this video? Let us know in the comments. Also, don't forget to turn on the notification bell and subscribe for more.